Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. So a few years ago, I cut off all my hair and I dyed it blonde, and that experience brought up a lot of feelings that I didn't expect to have. So I'm going to read a little creative nonfiction about that. Okay, so it's called More Fun. My blonde ambition begins a week after my wedding, when I impulsively chop off 10 inches of shiny black locks at a random strip mall salon. I choose the place not because of reputation. In fact, its Yelp star count is heart-poundingly low threes, but because it's the only place that does anonymous online bookings. I don't want to talk about my decision. I can't articulate my urgency to sever myself from my only conventionally attractive feature. Since childhood, XXL length hair has been my trademark, a sometimes frizzy security blanket through it all. When I gained weight and my skin stretched over 200 pounds of sick and sallow flesh, I watched friends too loudly praise my sultry waves while their eyes flicked with brief flashes of disgust and pity over my goals. When my mother fought cancer and I stopped sleeping, my ponytail tickled my tailbone to keep me awake. It always had my back. The stylist mournfully fingers my locks and tries to talk me out of the chop. She just knows the blunt, shoulder-length crop I request is en vogue for other girls, but it'll magnify the curves of my moony face. She's seen it a million times, girls who grow their hair out for the wedding and then go too drastic. I hate that she makes my personal metamorphosis feel pedestrian. I hate that I apologize repeatedly for wanting what I want. I hate that I feel so guilty about my needs that I spend an extra $50 on products that will collect dust on my bathroom countertop. I love the haircut. The stylist is totally right. It isn't flattering and it does make my face look rounder, chubbier yet older. A classic aesthetic don't. But I love how I don't quite look like myself, and I'm addicted. How hard would it be to go blonde? I ask her. What are you? As a mixed-race person, I'm asked this more often than you'll believe. Most of the time, this casual probing on my basic existence is supposed to be polite. Not who am I, or even who do I think I am, but what am I? Semantics. I have a script. Half Japanese, half white. The white half is a bunch of things, mostly Finnish and Scottish. My father was born in Canada, grandparents too. We don't speak Japanese. No, I've never been to Japan. Sometimes people don't believe me. They say things like, you look Indian, or you look Latina, or, yeah, I guess you are Asian, but not Japanese. To this I usually say, sorry, which is very Canadian. When I decide to really plunge into blondom, I ask my friend's 20-something girlfriend for advice. She's Instagram model gorgeous, half Japanese, half Italian, with the icy blonde of my dreams. Alana is more than 10 years younger than me, a different generation. Unlike me, she's grown up with plenty of mixed-race kids around her. It's normal, cool even, and she knows her heritage. When we met, she held my hand and asked me all the same questions. Do you speak Japanese? Does your dad? Have you been to Japan? These familiar questions stung more coming from her, because where my answers are cloudy, no, hers are breezy and clear. Yes. Alana is immediately supportive of my quest to copycat her depigmentation. She shares insider tips, essentials that sound fake but aren't. Purple shampoo, milkshake conditioner, Olaplex sealants. A stylist that knows the intricacies of our kind of hair. Unlike my friends, my white friends, she doesn't try to gently steer me away from the drastic change. She seems to float between her racial identities effortlessly, and I'm grateful and I'm jealous. Japanese girls got to stick together, she says. She doesn't mention the half. My Asian half is hard to talk about because my family never, ever talks about it. It wasn't until I was an adult that I truly considered my father's experience of being visibly Asian in post-war Vancouver. Not just not white, but Japanese. This is what I know. Dad was born in the early 50s, the second youngest child in a family of second-generation Japanese Canadians. As with many in this era, their relationship status with their Canadian half is complicated. The family restricted their property and dignity, imprisoned for years in internment camps Japanese have. Left with nothing, they fled to Lethbridge, Alberta after they were released. When my father was born, they returned to BC. I do not know how or why they came back. I do know that when they returned to the mountains and the oceans where they were born, they were different. They did not speak the language. They did not pass down their traditions. They practiced their Buddhist religion so quietly that their children only thought about it at funerals, when cold circles of prayer beads were taken from storage and passed around. They took on Caucasian names like Jean and Ted and Don and did their best to fit in. They disguised their heritage so well that a generation later, I can only see it through the brown in my eyes or the questions I receive from others. Okay. Don't quote me on the science of going black to blonde, but this is what it feels like. Sizzling acid, swallowing errant flakes and excess oil and tapping on bony skull. Fiery, noxious waves proving that beauty is indeed pain. The air is thinning, once good oxygens laced with cartoon skulls and crossbones and hints of Mr. Clean. I lie to the colors. Can't feel anything, maybe a tingle, super mild. The truth isn't an option. Alana already told me the secret. The second I acknowledge the pain, it'll all stop, and I've come too far to be stuck with a creamsicle head and yet another corporeal failure. In the mirror, it's all a mess of tinfoil and snakes of hair turning shades of turmeric. It hurts, but I don't care. I'm not leaving until the bleach eats the pigment out of every cell. 6 hours later, my scalp stings and my newly porous hair won't dry, but it's white blonde and I feel like someone. Maybe I feel like myself. For the first time in my life, I see my mother's face in mine. I put on sunglasses to cover my eyes and walk out into the late afternoon sun, wondering if I'm fooling anyone. Last summer, I visited my mother's hometown in Thunder Bay, Ontario. It's my first time there since I was a child. She rarely talks about Thunder Bay, the city she grew up in but fled as a teenager for the sunshine of the West Coast and an interracial marriage. My now retired parents drive from Vancouver to Ontario, but I fly. When I step off the plane, something's off and I feel conspicuous. At first, it's because I'm limping after very foolishly running a marathon earlier that morning. Passerby's eyes flit to my head and I fumble in my bag for a hat to cover my messy, bleached blonde hair that felt so cool when I left, but feels silly and out of place here. After a few minutes, I realize the reason I feel strange is because I'm the only non-white person in sight until my dad arrives. We visit my mother's family at a barbecue. It's a menagerie of aunts and uncles and cousins I recognize vaguely by name but not by face. Family, in theory, turned into strangers by time and distance. My mother, an ultra-shy woman who sometimes struggles to speak even to me, fits in here. Though she hasn't lived near these people for more than 40 years, her voice acclimates, taking on their Midwestern betcha tone. She looks like them, the same round noses and light eyes, the same humble style, medium-washed jeans and cotton button t-shirts on plus-size frames. Dad is overly eager here, shaking hands and making jokes with in-laws who smile politely but not warmly. His hair is grayed light to match theirs now, but he still sticks out. I realize that even though I have the same round nose and light hair at the moment, I stick out too. You've got some crazy hair going on there, eh, Sharon? My auntie Lee says, struggling to remember my name while bringing me a cup of tea. Hands to head, I glimpse my reflection in the glass of the microwave. I'm still holding on to the blonde, but dark roots are creeping through. I'm definitely not fooling anyone. I'm 11K into a training run and not in the mood for small talk. I see John from afar, but hope he doesn't recognize me. He's an overly friendly older acquaintance from my running group, and I don't want to chat. I pick up my pace to pass him on the seawall, but as I curve under an emerald scaffolding of the Lionsgate Bridge, he huffs along beside me. Oh, I thought that was you. Yeah, it's me. I almost didn't recognize you. Something's different? I was blonde when you met me last month, I say, pointing at my freshly dyed, stubby brown ponytail for emphasis. He looks me up and down, and I can see the PC wheels turning in his head. You're very exotic. What are you? Canadian. Yes, but ethnically, half white, half Japanese. Oh, I never would have guessed it, he said. It's so hard to tell these days. You know, with all these mixes, no one looks like what they are anymore. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my creative process. So I'm a freelance copywriter, so I write every single day, but not creatively, unfortunately. And that's something that I really have struggled with over the last few years. Since I started writing for money, it's hard to keep your fingers typing. But in the last year, I have made a pretty big change to my process in that I've been trying to connect physical movement with my writing process. I've always been a runner, off and on. But in the last year, as I mentioned my thing, I've been a marathon and I've been training for long distances. And I have forced myself to consistently run. And when I run with consistency, I find that I write with consistency. So I think that's the biggest thing that's going on in my creative process right now. I do like to think about like conversations when I'm running, but it's mostly just the physical process of moving connects with the mental process of writing. That's what I wanted to tell you about that. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is something I'm interested in. This is not really related to writing, but recently my husband's cousin was a co-star in a Christmas movie, a Hallmark or Lifetime Christmas movie called The Road to Christmas. And prior to this, I had not seen this genre of film. And since then, I've seen probably 15. And it's so interesting. So I would like to recommend that everyone watch some Hallmark Christmas movies because they are all the same in the most pleasing way. They all start with a fake Christmas song. It's like, oh, I know it, but I do. Oh, yeah. A fake Christmas song followed by characters walking in and immediately telling each other whatever the big problem is in their life. There's usually a fake European city with some sort of prince. A dead parent, always. Why? I don't know. I have to look into more why that is. But yeah, and then someone gets married at the end and it's Christmas and it usually snows. So yeah, that's something I'm interested in. I think it's very festive and this time of year there's a lot on Netflix. So that's all I have.
In your piece, you talked about talking to the people, like slightly younger generation about racial identity, mixed raceness. I guess this is a general question, but like, what do you feel has changed over time, and how has talking to the younger generation or older generation shaped your writing?
I feel like in my particular case, being half Japanese, with a parent whose parents were interned and who grew up immediately after that. And there's this weird pocket in that other half Japanese people my age, or give or take a few years, I think we have a lot of the same feelings, or just in my experience from talking to people, I feel like a little more time had passed. The younger people in their teens and 20s that I encounter that are mixed race, and even partially Japanese or whatever, they have more, not that I'm not proud of my Japanese heritage, but they know more about their heritage. So I feel like maybe people got a little quiet for a while, and even I'm speaking about it now. So if I had a child, I would talk to them. So I think there's this weird little pocket of people in Vancouver that were born around a certain time that have this experience. But yeah, I do some work with Hapapalooza, which is a festival celebrating people of mixed ethnicities, books and movies for kids that are about being mixed and being proud of it. And I think that's a wonderful world that they're going to grow up in that I wish maybe I had to. Yeah.